Hi, Tim.
Nice to see you, and hello to everybody in beautiful South Africa.
Yes, definitely. So let's just get straight into it. As Anita expressed, this conversation is going to be about the lifestyle of the workplace today. And at the beginning of this year, we saw when COVID hit the world that there were many people that believed that this would not be a long-term factor. But what we know now is that this pandemic has drastically changed the world and how we want to work and how we need to work. But this concept from work from home is not actually something new. And even before this crisis, there was a survey that expressed that more than 80% of employees would prefer to work from home at least some of the time. But now that employees are being forced to work from home, Tim, do you see this as all being positive?
Well, I think, the question's a really good one. I mean, COVID has created absolute mayhem and disaster for so many countries, but also the opportunity for reform. And with regards to the concept of working from home, Josie, I think there's real positives and negatives. And I think it largely comes down to where you live. I mean, all of us have been forced at one time or another this year to stay at home and work. By government, either through COVID or like here in Hong Kong at the very beginning of the year, we had the protests, which I'm sure you've heard about. And I think when we're talking about the upsides and downsides of working from home, the experience of working from home in lockdown, when you're forced to, is very different experience from working from home as a choice when you'd like to. So I think there's a big difference between lockdown and working from home as a post-COVID work style. To be given the choice to work from home pre-COVID without the additional pressures of homeschooling, for example, I think we would have definitely seen quite an uptake if we gave people the choice. I don't think there'd be a huge amount of force needed. I think the interesting thing now is that we are asking the question, if people would like to work from home for a proportion of the time, the resounding answer coming back is, well, hell yeah, we don't want to work in the corporate office all of the time. So there's a very positive response in embracing working from home for a proportion of the time from the majority of people. And of course, it opens up many lifestyle possibilities and upside for the employer and also the employee. I was just looking at a really good document out from Global Workplace Analytics, which shows employees around the world aren't at their desks for 50 to 60% of the time anyway. And a typical employer could save about 183,000 rand a year for every person who works remotely for half of the time by reducing real estate costs. I mean, that's a significant chunk of change, of course, and a big salary contribution, which might actually entice employers to take on more work from home staff, which is certainly, what all economies need at the moment. Additionally, I think working from home, it gives an additional 2 hours a day extra work. There's no lost time commuting, for example. That individuals are saving on the commute cost in London. I know this personally, it's exceptionally expensive to commute because nobody can afford to live in central London where they typically have to work. The commute cost is around 17,500 rand a month. And in many countries, we're seeing people move out of the expensive capital city commuter belts to lifestyle locations out on the coast or in the countryside, where you get more property for your money, and there's a propensity to, get the work-life balance right. So I think it's a real revolution that's going on right now. Not only a revolution in the workplace, but also a revolution in how we work, Josie.
Yeah, geez, I mean, completely. Just thinking about, as you say, the 2 hours extra work, even here in Gauteng, we deal with sitting in copious amount of traffic. So it's definitely something that is definitely changing. But Tim, at the start, you did say that there were some positive and negatives. So what would you say are the negatives of work from home?
Well, there's a few. In New York, CBRE says current office occupancy is less than 10%. The Lenovo survey of more than 10,000 home workers shows 71% reporting backache. And there was another one, the International Labour Organization survey of more than 40,000 workers shows 41% of home workers reporting high stress and discomfort. Those are real concerns. And working from home has the potential reversal of decades of property consolidation and centralisation. And of course, many of our capital central business districts could become mere shadows of what they formerly were. And as you said at the beginning of this, Josie, 80% of survey participants said they'd like to work from home. I mean, what does that say about our offices at the moment? I think for employees, the negative effects associated with working from home, such as Zoom fatigue, zoomed out, social isolation, and of course homeschooling demands during lockdown scenarios have to be acknowledged, understood, and addressed. For employees, work from home is becoming a real challenge in having, for employers, work from home is becoming an absolute challenge in having the oversight of the well-being of the employee too.
Yeah, I think it's quite hard because when employees come to the office, it's very easy as an employer to worry about your employee. So thinking about that, what would you say are some of the oversights that employees are not seeing and thus are actually affecting their employees?
Sure. We've spent decades ensuring that offices are designed in such a way to minimize musculoskeletal disorders associated with working in bad postures. And at home, we're seeing behaviors which are way worse than anything we've ever seen in the office. I've seen some fantastic cases recently. People lying on the floor working, sitting at a kitchen table on a stool for long hours, working in the garage, shed, or basement, competing with the children for that place at the dining table. So we've got every ergonomic principle under attack, from bad lighting, prolonged laptop use, inadequate back support, sitting in high-risk static postures, you name it, it's there. And homes, they're not designed like offices. So we need to have ergonomic intervention and standards need to be set. A really interesting aspect that's coming out really strongly now is that from a legal point of view, in many countries, the duty of care of the employer is exactly the same with respect to their obligations to health and safety, regardless if the employee has been asked to work from the office or from home.
Well, that's great to hear. I mean, hopefully more and more countries are going to start bringing in this legal point of view because, your employees are working at home, so they should have all the benefits of them working in the office. But, we said that even though people are enjoying working from home, we are seeing a lot of these implications that are affecting both the employer and the employee. So if we had to then go and look and talk to the employer, what would you say are some of the top factors that they need to embrace if their employees are going to keep on working from home?
Sure. I think the first one's got to be trust. I think employers and executives need to have a complete change of mindset with regards to being relaxed about work from home. And I think one of the biggest holdbacks on it is trust. Measuring results and not presenteeism. I mean, hopefully we're coming into a completely new era, potentially better era, of actually measuring results as opposed to bums on seats. And seeing the opportunities in what work from home could give us. I mean, I've spoken to several organisations recently that are using work from home as a hiring tool to attract the best talent. Remember, the employee can save 183,000 rand by having an employee work from home for 50% of the time. We need connectivity in order to do it, and that's key to supporting work from home. Technologically, it's becoming viable when it wasn't 20 years ago. Networks are getting faster, 5G is coming on stream, and especially video conferencing, as we've seen in lockdown, work really well. So connectivity is everything. It does bring its own problems. Cybersecurity, that's a massive concern for financial institutions. We're talking to them a lot about that. And the thought of having traders, for example, working from home raises a whole set of new IT challenges. Having the right ergonomic products, I think, are absolutely critical. Moving people away from those risk factors associated with prolonged laptop use, inadequate seating, fixed height workstations. We need to help align the home working standards to the office working standards. And in order to do that, we're going to have ergonomic programs. And whilst well-intentioned, most employees lack sufficient awareness of ergonomics to make informed decisions about their work from home setup. So, companies are giving their employees, or some companies are giving their employees some grants to set themselves up. But, education is absolutely needed to help them understand the benefit of ergonomics. Then we can ensure that the grant is invested wisely on tools and equipment which nurture productivity and supporting people working in a safe manner. I think we'll see an uptick, certainly, in understanding the benefits of an ergonomist, which you'll no doubt be pleased to know. Ergonomists focus on users. After all, they're the only occupation that put people at the centre.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we can say that there's quite a bit that companies need to be concerned about, but it's such a great thing to hear when people bring up, the need for an ergonomist. Again, a lot of companies would say, okay, we'll give you a second screen, we'll give you a fancy chair, but not educating the end user actually comes to the biggest problem, because they don't understand the benefits of why we need a good ergonomic home office. Mm-hmm. But the next thing that I'd like to ask is that I'm just thinking about this. If a company had given the employer everything to work sufficiently, so the ergonomic full setup, wouldn't you think that the need for home offices be irrelevant?
I don't think so, and this is a big question that the real estate organisations are talking about here in Hong Kong right now. Offices by their very nature are locations where people congregate to solve problems. For me, that's the definition of an office. And with brilliant design, environments can be designed in such a way to foster collaboration. And if that happens, then problems generally get solved faster. And then in turn, productivity increases. Productivity and profitability, they're indelibly linked. So the success of the organisation thrives on those factors. And I don't think you can dispense with them all. An office is absolutely required as a collaborative space. Offices and meeting places used for a proportion of time can overcome some of those things like social isolation and the stress of always being on one's own as well. I think now, because many offices are going to be used in a slightly different manner for intermittent sort of collaborative and social purposes, I think the design's going to be radically different, and certainly compared to the pre-COVID setup. Everybody's concerned about providing they call it a COVID secure environment where people can congregate intermittently, safety, enhanced disinfection routines. We're seeing a big deployment of things like separation panels in other markets. And here in Hong Kong, if I can show the view out the window right now, it's wall-to-wall skyscrapers. We can't do without offices. It's not really practical for the majority of people to work from home, because the average home size in Hong Kong is 40 meters squared. To put that into context, in New York, it's about 137 meters squared. But what is interesting and what's really gaining momentum is in many countries, we're now seeing the emergence of these, they're called neighborhood work centers, which is a substitute, if you like, for working from home remotely. So these these smaller type of centres would be located in communities and provide workers with the ability to connect and work in an environment that's very conducive to working well, something they can't do in their own small apartments. And these are very different to the sort of co-working spaces we see in every CBD, in every major city, because the need to be in the CBD isn't necessarily going to be there anymore. So these hubs would potentially be in every small town across the country, where working in one's home isn't feasible. The individual could spend half their time working in such a place or at home locally, and the remaining 50% of the time, in the company office for, as we said, collaborative meeting or social purposes.
Yeah, geez, that's actually quite interesting, because I'm just thinking, for us fellow South Africans, I do know that the home size for the average person in Gauteng is about 160 meters square. So we're doing a little bit, actually quite a bit better than Hong Kong. But at least we've got the space now, we can say, to incorporate home designs into our office. But the other thing, you definitely hit the nail on the head, that we need office space to leave home and go do this collaborative office meeting, to bring in a more dynamic environment, and therefore people can prioritize the needs of this active and changing community.
Yeah, sure, completely true, Josie. The benefits of a collaborative workspace definitely encourages a new way of thinking, and how we work and share with each other.
Yeah, I think what I'm getting to all of this, and what we've kind of have thought of, is that we need both. We need the home office that allows for the good ergonomic products and the well design, but we also need this work office to allow for this collaboration and dynamic workplace. And thinking about, due to that, what would you say to future designers that will be in the forefront of future offices and home designs?
Well, I think office design, it will change. It is changing. Staff want to go to the office for intimate collaboration and social. So the workplace needs to reflect this. As we said earlier, collaborative spaces that are COVID secure, enhancing collaboration, enabling people to solve problems, productivity and staff retention. The traditional office layout is unlikely to be the same. Employees and employers certainly need to engage with ergonomists, I feel. This will at least enable them to sort of quantify the data that can help demonstrate the impact of just what ergonomic solutions can have. It's a secret weapon, really. We've always said that, and at the heart of being able to unlock, the best in human potential. Everywhere, in every market now, we're witnessing and we're participant in the world's largest work from home experiment in history. And what we're seeing so far is that absolutely it's here to stay, but also it's got the potential to completely change the way we work. It's certainly got the potential to change home design, for example. Here in Asia, it's not unusual to get a feng shui master in to assist with home design. And I see ergonomists being utilised for future home design, where, dedicated spaces in the house that are conducive to creativity. They're well lit, they've got fantastic acoustics. They're wired for virtual calls and away from distraction, the main circulation routes of the household. I think they'll become standard. Every hotel room I've ever been in has got a version of an office or a workstation in it. And I think an office or a place to work style setting is going to be very commonplace in the home and in fact designed in. So ultimately, my thought on it is that flexi-work is absolutely here to stay, and it's not going to change. And every aspect of design now has to incorporate that.
Yeah, geez, I mean, again, I completely agree. You know, flexi work it's here and people need to get on board with it. And bosses and employers need to go with the trend now, unfortunately, that this is the way we're working.
Right.
But Tim, you know, I think you and I could both talk about this conversation for hours on end, as it's a big passion for us. But I think I'm going to open up to a few questions for people that are talking. I know there's a few that's popped up already. So the first one here, I'm just going to read it straight, and then if you're happy to chat away. So the one person asked, I have all the right ergonomic equipment for my office, and I've read up about ergonomics online. Why would you suggest I still need assistance of an ergonomist to help me set up?
Yeah, I mean, what we are seeing is that there is a huge benefit for engaging with an ergonomist to do an assessment. And it's something as an organisation we offer. And having we see, for example, people getting into all sorts of issues with regards to vision, reach, and posture. So it's having a virtual assessment by a qualified ergonomist enables you to maximise the way in which your ergonomic products can interact with you. They can give you advice on the ratios of sit to stand, display screen equipment distances, where you should be locating your screen, the height of your screen, how to adjust your chair correctly. All of these things have to be done once. But from an education point of view, I think it's very important to enable people to see the correct procedure in setting up their workstation. And the majority of people that are working from home are working on laptops. I think you'll agree. Yeah, which were designed, coincidentally, to be used on your lap for short periods of time.
Exactly.
On the train, in the airport terminal, but not for all day. So, showing people how they can overcome some of the drawbacks with regards to laptops by utilising a second screen, where to locate those devices to minimise all of the problems we see associated with prolonged laptop use.
Yeah. And I mean, again, as we say, it's education. You know, a lot of people will say, oh, well, it's a laptop. I mean, that's what my company's given me. But educating people and telling them, as you said, it's for short periods of time to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next question there, it says, how do I get in touch with an ergonomist? Tim, if you're happy, I would just say that we do have in Hall 1, it's called Formfunc Studio. If you want to go through to speak to them, and they could give you some details to be able to get into contact with myself or any prior ergonomists. And internationally, yeah, we can send you off through to Tim, and he can help you as well if there are any people listening that are not from South Africa.
Yeah, we have a consulting division. So we have ergonomists in major markets with language capability, and obviously they can take care of any needs in local time.
Yeah. Okay, so then it says, hi, why do designers have to think about an added space in houses for workspaces? What are the actual negatives of working at my dining room table?
Well, I think some of the negatives of working at the dining room table would certainly include probably sitting on seating that isn't designed for task. If you're working at a dining room table, likely you're using your laptop. And again, we see contact stress on the edge of the table, which can lead to things like carpal tunnel syndrome. A laptop, by its very nature, the screen of a laptop is connected to the keyboard. So you can either get the screen in the right position, which puts the keyboard in the wrong position, or you can put the keyboard in an okay position, which puts the screen in the wrong position. So it's about working with tools which enable you to work safely with a laptop, which would be putting it in a laptop holder and having a separate keyboard, or having an external monitor. And the practicality of installing that sort of equipment on a dining room table sometimes isn't. It's not a practical way of working in one's home. I talk about my household, for example. I wouldn't dare work at the dining room table. It's my daughter's art stuff, paint, craft. It's just impossible, and you just get so many distractions as well. So
yeah, I think that's definitely, for people that are living at home with kids and husbands and wives and everything. It's definitely something where the dining room table, you want to kind of put little lines to say this is my spot, so it's easier to have your own little area.
Oh, sure. I live in one of those small Hong Kong houses, and the competition for space at the dining room table during lockdown was fierce. And I usually, so I was working in the bedroom, and it's having a dedicated space which is considered well for acoustics, lighting. It's critical. Additionally, in living rooms, in kitchens, etc., the lighting typically isn't appropriate for working. You need task lighting. You need more light for when you're reading documents. You need less background light for when you're viewing a screen. So all of those small idiosyncrasies, they can't be adjusted as well as a dedicated work setting. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you hear this word all the time, and I hear it my whole life, is kind of having that holistic view that, it's not just the chair, it's the lighting, the environment, the noise. So you've got to know all of those different things to have the perfect setup to actually work well and, do your job properly. Yeah.
And of course, it depends on your task as well. I mean, if you're a designer and you're using paper-based plans, or you're an accountant that's doing lots of figures, separate screens, either in landscape or portrait, considerations that have to be accommodated. So it's very, very few jobs lend themselves to working on a laptop for a long period of time, sitting at a fixed height work surface like a dining room table in a chair that's designed for people to sit down and have a meal on for a relatively short period of time, not work for hours at a time.
Yeah. So there's another question that's just popped up as well. They said, what is meant by flexi work? So would you just explain in a few terms exactly the meaning of flexi work?
Yeah, sorry, might be a European phrase, I guess, but flexi is, it goes back to measuring results as opposed to the presenteeism. So you've got a job to do, and it's up to you really when you do it. So if you want to do your Zoom call and then go walk the dog and come back and do more work, that's okay. As long as the job is done, and that there is obviously an expectation that the individual works certain hours, but as long as the job is done and the results are there, the individual can work as and when they need to get the job done.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I must say, talking about flexi work, I mean, I love flexi work and my company is very pro it. And, talking to my dad, who is in a very different generation, he's, but you must be seated at your desk from 8 until 5. And, it's something that I think a lot of people need to kind of bring to a concept that it's so different. But yeah, if you get the job done, then what's the problem?
When it comes to factory work, right? I mean, the clock in, clock out, and then the clock in, clock out started in offices, of course. So, I think if we are moving into that era that's measuring results more than presenteeism, and you don't need to commute into a central business district in order to enable your employer to have eyes on the fact that you're in the building, I think it opens up all sorts of opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, the big thing, as you said, it's all about trust.
Yeah. Yeah. And the interesting thing is obviously, we look after, as a company, 52 markets. Every single market is in the same situation with this. So everybody's experiencing this working from home phenomenon. And, 4 or 5 months ago, people were sort of wringing their hands and saying, well, we're not going to do anything about it because we don't think it's going to be here to stay. Daily now, very large organizations are saying, okay, we're working from home until 2021 first quarter, second quarter, even till next summer. So it's astounding. And they are having to set themselves up for that and ensure from a legal point of view, and that's a big one, is the legal obligation of the organisation is that their individuals are working safely if they've been asked to work from home. So asking an individual to work from home until next summer and then that allowing them to work from the dining room table is going to be an issue if that individual subsequently experiences problems.
Yes, exactly.
And that's where it's good to have ergonomic planning as opposed to ergonomic intervention, because ergonomic intervention typically happens when the horse is bolted, when the problem's already there. So by proper planning and design up front, we can mitigate, some of those issues that are coming down the line from people working in the basement
Okay, so it looks like there's no more questions, and I think we've taken up our time. But we hope that everyone has. Oh, there's one popped up here. Sorry, another one. How can we get in touch with Josie and Tim? So we could do, Tim, can I throw in your email address?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So it is Tim at Humanscale.
I actually come to South Africa when I'm allowed to, but yes. I miss it.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop up on the front here my email address, and then you are welcome to contact me, and I will send through Tim's email address as well. But it seems like it's not going through. But if it doesn't go through and it's not showing on the screen, there we go, Josie at formfunc.co.za. And then again, that Formfunc, we are in Hall 1, so you guys are welcome to come through and see us and talk to us as well. Yeah. Okay. All right. So thank you very much, Tim, and enjoy your day in Hong Kong. We are very grateful that you could chat to us.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on. It's always lovely to see you, and goodbye to everybody in South Africa. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you very much.